Football is back, baby. It's NFL season, and I am so excited to sit down and talk with our next guest. He is Ben Jones, offensive lineman who began his career with the Georgia Bulldogs, then was drafted by the Houston Texans, and then became a Tennessee Titans. And he may be one of the most tough people I've ever met, both mentally and physically. And I'm so excited to sit down and dive into his brain today. He is also one of the nicest people you will ever meet. Let's do this. Welcome. Thank you for joining me, Ben.
Happy to be here. Good seeing you.
Oh, I'm so excited. So you're officially in retirement now.
I am.
There's no convincing you of coming back.
Oh, you never know. That's what I always say. Everybody asks, I'm like, you really don't fill out paperwork for retirement in the NFL until you need benefits. And I guess I could if I wanted, but I'm very happy doing what I'm doing.
I love it. Well, thank you for coming on the podcast and sitting down. It is NFL season, so I felt like it was the perfect time to talk to you about some current stuff and then about yourself. So first, you are from small town and you got big, huge. Was the NFL your dream as a little boy?
Not really. Growing up, we didn't have, I feel like kids nowadays have the social media. They're so close, they're intertwined with it. Like growing up for me, it was just like hunting, fishing, going to the high school games. Like the high school players were like my role models in my hometown because that was pretty much the only thing to do. Like I didn't have internet or anything like that while I was growing up or cell phones. So we went to church. We Friday night football, everybody in the whole town goes. On Saturday, you watch Alabama and Auburn where I grew up. And you hope, for me, I hope Georgia was on TV, but a lot of Saturdays it wasn't. So it's definitely a big change. My whole goal was to be a coach high school football. So never thought I would play in college and definitely didn't think I was going to play in the NFL.
I mean, you're living your dream now then of coaching high school football. How's that
And
going?
it's been great getting to have an impact on these kids' lives and just helping them manage the day to day and showing them like, hey, this is what it takes to go to the next level and just trying to help them be the best version of themselves.
Yeah, I mean, that's so rewarding. What about, I changed lanes without signaling a lot, but you were just talking about growing up. You watched Georgia on the TV or was hoping it was on. So did you always know you wanted to go to Georgia? How did that come about?
So early on, I was an Auburn fan because you were either Alabama or Auburn in my hometown. You had to pick and
Mhm.
that's what they talked about every week. My dad passed when I was 10 and he went to Georgia. So that kind of moved me more. I'm like, hey, I wanted something to remember my dad about. And that's when I kind of took up Georgia. And from 10 on, I was kind of like a diehard. I was pretty much the only kid in town wearing a Georgia jersey on Fridays and any kind of sporting event. I was always going to have a Georgia jersey on.
Now, were you recruited heavily by them or did you walk on? What was that story?
Yeah, so pretty much my hometown I was pretty much the first one to ever go Division One, SEC in football. I think somebody might have went back in the 70s and 80s. So we didn't have the internet and how they have send film out now through Huddle. So the only tape I had was a VHS that my mom had made videoing my brother because he was a quarterback and ended up going to play baseball at Alabama. So I kind of had some footage, but no school offered me until I went to a camp. So I would just show up at camp. They had no idea who I was, and I had to earn a spot. And pretty much every school that offered me, I went to and earned it.
Yeah. Wow. And I said in your intro, which I know you didn't hear, but you are probably one of the toughest athletes slash people I've ever met. Not only physically, we can talk about what you've played through, but mentally too. And you had adversity. I'm grateful to be on your support team through your career. So I know a little behind the scenes, like you had adversity early on in life. Would you mind talking about that of what you overcame?
Yeah, so starting at 10, my dad passed. Then a couple months later, I got hit in the head with a baseball bat, fractured my skull, still have screws in my head. So didn't know if I was going to make it through that. So finally get out of that lull in life and start in high school. I go for a shoulder x-ray And I tell the doctor, like, man, my shin is killing me. And he's like, well, we can look at it. Ended up having a osteomyelitis in my shin. They had to go in and hollow out my tibia. Was on IV antibiotics for 10 weeks. So, but I never missed a football game. I always tell that from high school all the way through college until year 11. That was my streak. I was like, I'm going to play every game. I'm going to practice every day because you never know when it's your last. And I always took that. I was like, hey, I miss basketball. I miss baseball. But anytime I'm able to practice or go, that was my whole mindset. And no matter what the injury was, I was going to fight through it.
So, what kept you so motivated and inspired you, even at that young age?
I think my older brother always pushed me. He was the tough guy. He was the father figure in our house, and he never complained. I was the kid, the bad kid that ran around, always up to no good, pestering everybody, pestering him. And he was as straight laced as they came. He did all the chores. He carried the load. He was like, just act right. He carried me to school. He picked me up. He kind of showed me how to be a man in my life. And then after going to college, I'm like, man, I don't understand. I didn't know how much he actually did for me. So out of respect, he was back home working, and I was like, man, if I can play, this guy would do anything in the world to be getting to chase his dream because he got hurt playing professional baseball and never got to finish his dream out. So I was like, I'm gonna finish it. I'm
Mhm.
gonna make sure I can do it.
And you did it. How many seasons? You said 11?
Hit 11.
Yeah. And what are some of the injuries that you played through?
You
I know
name it.
it's like, do we have all day?
So minor ones, I had 3 thumb surgeries. They had to take the ligament out my wrist and make me a new thumb. But I did that one year, my first game of the season. So I could hold my hand up and my thumb would just drop because they had nothing left. So I just casted it every day for that. I had my collarbone come through my skin, through the SI joint, didn't miss a snap. They glued it back down with tape, and I figured out how to play and how to not rotate my hand so it wouldn't pop out every play. I had AC joint stuff. I had knees scoped, ankle scoped, elbow scoped, labrum taken out because they couldn't fix it. All your MCLs, I don't even know if I have one left, the amount of MCL tears and sprains and high ankle sprains and low ankles. It was just a mindset. Like if I could play and practice, I could figure it out and how to make it work during the week.
How in those moments if you haven't blocked it out, like what are you telling yourself? Like you're probably in pain. What are you telling yourself that's pushing you through?
Games were easier. I feel like the practice was the hardest part. Like being able to go out there and practice when you were hurting. You're like, man, I don't have to do this. The coach would give me a day off if I need it. But it was a mindset of being a leader, being accountable. And every day when you walked in that building, it said durability is better than ability. And my thing was, nobody's going to take my spot. I remember in Houston, we had guys take days off and stuff, and that's kind of where I got my chance. Like I showed them that hey, I can play center, guard, and I was grateful for that opportunity because veterans took day off. And I was like, I'm not taking a day off. Nobody's going to take my spot, and they're never going to know if my backup is going to be good enough because I'm going to take every rep in practice,
Hmm.
every rep in the game, and that's the thing. These coaches, they trusted me. If they trust you, they're not putting nobody else in there because it's their livelihood, their family. They want to win just as bad. And they're like, hey, if Ben can go, we're going to let him go.
Hmm. Yeah. And you built that resilience over time of always coming back. So
Right.
this brings up a good question. We can harp on this too, and I want to definitely hit on this. Like physical toughness clearly is a component in the NFL. You are beat to shit all the time. But do you think mental component is just as important, or is it more important than the physical aspect?
I think it's more like you're constantly battling those demons. Like, hey, people are telling you you need to rest. People are saying, hey, it's okay. You've made enough money. You deserve a day off. And those are the same people who are going to snatch everything away from you if you're not playing good on Saturday. So my thing was, if I can fight through it, if I can do it, they know how much pain I'm going through and how much I'm giving this team, and I'm still able to play at this level. Imagine what my play would be back if I was 100%. So that was my thing was they know what I'm going through. They know what I can do and where I was limited. So if I couldn't do like a certain thing in practice, I would just tell them like, hey, I really need to stay away from this block today. Can I get a rep off on this play? And they'd be like, absolutely. So just being honest with them and instead of like, hey, I need the whole day off, I'm like, hey, I can do individual, I can do this, but I need pass rush off. I need to give my elbow a break today. And they would work with you instead of kids taking the whole day off and where they could have got something out of that day.
Absolutely. So are you glad that you took the approach you did?
Yeah, I think what I would be remembered for from my teammates, like guys, because I know the trainer would be like, hey, Ben's practicing. Why can't you practice today? You need to go sit down with him and figure out what his method was to practice through that. And the amount of guys would, like as an offensive lineman, they'd be like, man, I can't take the day off. Ben just tore his MCL and has a high ankle sprain, and I have a stomach virus. Like he would be out there. So it kind of held everybody accountable, and especially in my room and the other guys in the offense, because I would let them know, like, yes, I've played through stomach flu and you name it. I've torn ankles, MCLs, and I got it fixed. I got my tape and went back out there.
Mm-mm.
It's half of it's just, hey, what your body can go through. It's one play at a time. It's gonna hurt, and I'm gonna go back to the huddle and figure it out. And I'm gonna do it one more play, and it's just one play at a time.
Mm-hmm. And did you know less than 5% of people actually get to live their dreams? Something I
Right.
just came upon. So I think it's pretty cool. Both of us sitting here are like living our dreams. And that I think is also very motivating. Like we didn't think we would get to where we are, NFL wise or whatever. It's just
Right.
like, I feel like that's motivating every day in itself of the joy you get to have from what you do. In the locker room, I know you were the top of the top. People looked up to you. All these other players, when I've been with them, rave about you and your kindness and how you are such a good friend and your mentorship. How important was that to you to like lead in that role?
Right. For me, I wanted to go above and beyond. It wasn't just football for me. It was, hey, how do I be the best teammate? How do I make guys a better man? If it was sitting down, doing devotions with them, if it was helping them find a house, if it was sending them restaurants for when their families, or if they needed daycare options, or if they needed massage, anything for body wellness, like I wanted to be that outlet for everybody on the team. Now, my wife was probably ready to kill me because I felt like I was constantly on my phone trying to help people, being in the building every morning, 2 hours before everybody got there, and another 2 or 3 hours after everybody left, because I wanted to be there for people. And they always knew, like, hey, in the mornings, Ben's going to work out this time. He's going to watch tape. So any young guy could come sit down and watch tape with me. I could go over financial stuff with them. I was an open book. I could sit down and show them every investment I've done, how I've structured my bank accounts, how I did my savings, how I tithed and everything. So it was nothing that they couldn't ask me. And I
Mhm.
felt like having that relationship and building that bond with guys, and they would want to play harder for you. They didn't want to let me down because I was such an open book to them. And still, those guys are on other teams, getting traded to other teams. Like, hey, Ben, do you know anything in this area? I'm like, let me do some research and I'll send it to you. So
Mhm.
I was just like their safety net because some guys just needed somebody that they could call besides a family member to vent to get a second opinion on.
Mhm. And someone they can trust is in their shoes. I feel like it's a little lonely, correct me if I'm wrong, to go through that change of you're just normal from a small town and then all of a sudden you're in the NFL and everyone thinks, "Oh my God, you have all this money, you should be this and do this." And like that's not true. There's a lot involved, a lot of money going out. There's, all the things and it needs to last your whole life.
Right.
So, and then you almost feel like guilty for complaining that you're, a little lost and didn't know what to do. So who was your mentor? Like who helped you when you first got into the league?
So my biggest influence was Chris Myers. He was the Pro Bowl center in Houston, and I was when I got drafted. I'm like, why am I going to Houston? I'm like, they have their guy, but I never knew I would need somebody like that in my corner. He showed me how to be a family man. He had 4 kids while we were in Houston. Like he put his family above everything. He scheduled his workday around making sure he could go to kids' birthday parties and pick them up and go to kids' plays. And he always made a priority. So he was in extremely early every day, getting his work in. So at the end of the day, when he went home, those kids were his world. So I didn't bring extra work home. I didn't watch tape at home. Like I wanted my kids to know when dad walked in the door that I was all theirs. My attention was solely on them.
Yeah, how hard was it balancing all that?
It's hard, especially when your coaches are texting you like, "Hey, have you watched this yet?" Like, yes, I'm gonna get to that. Then after a couple years, they understand like what I was going through. Like they knew I was gonna make sure I watched everything. So they kind of stepped back and like, "Hey, we trust Ben. He's gonna probably watch more tape than anybody in this building, and we know he's going to be prepared and bring everybody else along. We just got to trust it. He's going to do it on his time and when he's ready. He knows, like Coach Vrabel and all the O-line coaches knew, like when I walked in that building, my daughter was everything to me. Like I wanted to make sure she knew that because I was at work. You know, from her sitting in all our sessions and
I know.
uh, live sessions, she would be sitting on my back while Brittany was giving me a massage. So I wanted to let her know, like, hey, this is her time. And she was always there for me no matter what.
Oh, she was the best assistant. Like, I'll hire her someday if she decides to go into this.
She's the
So
best.
overall, like we hit on a bunch of stuff so far, but what do you think is the hardest part about playing in the NFL?
The hardest part is probably time management because you go from high school to college and every point of your day is pretty much accounted for from tutoring to class to meeting time. Even in the off season, you have spring practice, still have class. So you really only have May off in college. And a lot of people still stay there and take some extra classes. But in the NFL, you play your season, you get done on Monday, Tuesday, you're out the building by 12 if you want to be. Wednesday and Thursday, you're there a little longer. Friday, you're off by 12. Saturday, pretty much the same. Sunday, you could be back home with that. Where in college, your day was from 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. So you had downtime in the afternoon. So some people choose to play video games, choose to study, choose to take care of your body. So you had to build that routine where somebody else was always building it for you. Then you get to the off season and you are completely off from when you lose. So if you don't make the playoffs, you're off from January 1st until April 16th. And you have to take the advantage of where am I going to work out? Where am I going to get treatment if I'm hurt? Where am I going to go? Am I going to go back to college and get treatment or go to college and work out or pay somebody in town and train or work out at the facility? You have to make that decision. And a lot of kids don't make the right choices. They make what's they think's the best, what's fun, and not what's best for their future.
Yeah, and that makes sense. We have talked a lot about how you have learned over your career of how to take care of yourself, but wanted to share that with everyone here of like, what do you wish you would have known? How did you come upon this? Like, what, everyone must think, it's so easy. They're getting everything taken care of, but there's how many guys on the team for the staff to try to help. And like, how important has that whole journey of taking care of yourself been for you?
Yeah, early on in your career, their whole persona around being in the training rooms, like don't go in there, like you're hurt, that it's bad, like you won't get your next contract. So no matter if you're hurting or not, you just don't go in there. And they're like, don't use these supplements or do this. You could fail a drug test. Don't use this massage person. This person's not good. That you should just get it done from this in house, where your massage person in house only gives you a 10-minute massage on one spot, and it's just a warm up before your treatment. So you felt like if you were sitting on the table, it was an actual injured person over there that could be using it. Then the older and older I got, I'm like, hey, I'm going to use these people. Like, yes, my knee needs or my back needs to be loosened up before practice. So I had a guy who would stretch me every day. He would mobe me every day, and it was set in stone. Like, hey, when I walked in, hey, Taki's coming with me. Like, he's going to do all my taping. He's going to stretch me. He's going to mobe me every day before practice. But that came with the veteran aspect too. Like, hey, Ben needs him to practice, and nobody's gonna take Taki from me before practice. And just the whole like eating right, like putting the right things in your body. Like I totally would give up alcohol during the season. Like no matter if it was a date night, off week, like it wasn't worth for me. Like, hey, I'm not having any setbacks in my life during the season. Like, hey, I can have fun in the off season if I need it. We're going on vacation and stuff, but during the season, my mindset was like, what in the world could I put in my body that hurt it? No chance. So I did everything from IVs to massage to needling to mental health, from sitting with psychologists, everything that could help me with my game, I did it.
Hmm. Yeah. And I mean, even in the off season, we were doing the performance training stuff, that torture. How did you, like, what age were you? Because I know our good friend Brittany, she's amazing massage therapist. That's how you and I got connected too. How did you find her? And when did you make that decision of like, I need to do an outside routine and take care of myself?
So when I got here from Houston, I was like, I'd got my first big contract. I was like, hey, I'm ready to take my game to the next level. Like, yes, if I'm going to practice every day and play in every game, I'm going to need somebody on my team that's going to solely devote 2 or 3 days a week to my body. And I found her through DeMarco Murray and Wesley Woodyard, and all of them were already using her. And I was like, hey, this is a veteran guy who's been using her for years. He's in year 9, 10, and 11. I'm like, all right, something's going right here. I'm going to try her out. It's the most painful thing in America. I tell you that much. Like everybody thinks, oh, I'm getting a massage. I would rather do a lot of things than get a massage because it is not pleasant at all. Because what we're putting our body through on the field and everything, hey, if my lat's tight on this side, it's causing my low back to hurt on this side, or if my neck's jacked up, it's causing this to hurt. And she would go in there with elbows, and man, it's brutal. I felt like I'd played a game after I got a massage.
I'm sure she did too, working on you.
No doubt.
One of your former teammates, I had asked him once, like, why did you reach out? Like, how did you hear about me? And he goes, all I know is if Ben Jones and Derrick Henry are doing it, I need to be doing it too. Like, you had an impact without even talking to him.
Right.
What do you wish kids, even in high school now, or even NFL players or anyone in general trying to take care of themselves? I mean, we only get one body. What do you wish people knew about treatment and the options out there?
Yeah. You think you have an injury, but it's just something small that you can get worked on and fixed that could help you so much. Like for me, when my ankle was messed up, I didn't have full range of motion. My hamstring was getting messed up, my
Mhm.
calf was getting messed up, I was having knee problems. It was all because my ankle wasn't moving and functioning right.
Yep.
So that was one of the big reasons Brittany recommends, like, hey, you need to trust Audra. Like, if she can get this range of motion back, I think a lot of this other stuff will calm down. When I was like, oh, it's just an ankle out. Yes, I've sprained it, but never knew like everything was so well connected in your body, and it could prevent so many other things happening and nagging injuries. I thought that would never go away. I was just, it's just wear and tear. But if you treat the root of the problem, other things will calm down.
Then you feel better on the field and can perform better.
Absolutely. That's the key. It's like you want to be up there and you want to play your best. And a lot of people just don't understand, like, hey, I'm supposed to hurt. That's what coaches and trainers always say. Oh, you're never supposed to feel good. Like, you can feel good. Like, by Sunday, if you take care of your body, you do the right things, you can feel good on Sunday.
Oh, absolutely. Speaking of that and feeling hurt, not good. You and I both know Derrick Henry very well, and I know we both think the world of him on and off the field. You're one of his best friends. What was it like blocking for one of the greatest running backs in the league?
That was another thing. Like, when you had somebody that, it brought excitement to the O line because our job is very mundane. Our job is to play 60 to 75 snaps a game and play perfect, and nobody know about it. If you give up a sack, you give up a big play, that's the only time your name gets called. So my thing was like, hey, this is our way in light. If we get this guy 2,000 yards, like we'd set goals and records, and we made a thing like, hey, if he was tackled, we picked him up. Like, and that's why I laugh now. You see him roll over for the Raven, he sticks that hand up, and somebody don't pick him up right away. I'm like, you better pick him up. I
Yeah,
was like,
yeah.
I told him we spoiled him because we had like a thing in the O line who could pick him up the most in the game. That means we were by the ball, we were hustling, and because we wanted him to stay in. That's one less thing he had to do was pick himself up off the ground. I was like, even though that Joker was so heavy and didn't help at all, I'm like, dude, I am tired. You're about to go out, and I'm still having to pick you up.
Ashton.
We had so much fun. It made it exciting. It made it fun, and having a teammate like him, like every game was special because you knew he was chasing records. He was the next best thing, and we were getting to be a part of it. So we knew we were living out there chasing a gold jacket for him, and it made everyday practice more fun and games special.
Absolutely. How bad did that hurt when he would run into you and fall on you?
Yeah, I probably got a couple banged up shoulders, necks, and backs because it's like a freight train because you don't see him coming. And I'm like, dude, you couldn't hit them? Like, pick a little better angle. He's like, man, I was just trying to get that first down. I'm like, I'm glad you got him through me. I'm like, I appreciate you. So he
You're like, we're
earned it,
supposed to go to the other team, not on your team.
no doubt. I'm like, man, that would have been way better if you'd just hit their guy, not me. But
Oh,
he is a bull in a china shop trying to get that yard, and I still love him to death. I talk to him all the time, love his kids, and he's one of those guys that we'll sit back when we're old and gray and bitter, and we'll pick up the phone and still call each other.
and it's cool probably through you too, because I know you influenced him, but like watching his journey of learning how to take care of himself over the years of, you know, treatment, food, all of it, and all of us, helping.
No doubt. We were both on that food thing for a while that we ate terrible, but we
Yep.
did everything else right. We took care of our body, massage, everything else, and we just loved food. And finally, he made the jump and he would hold everybody accountable. Like, what you eating right there? I'm like, dude, you were just eating way back burger 2 years ago after at the game, and now you telling me I can't eat it? He'd be like, we're trying to be great. I'm like, all right, you're right. So he would hold me accountable and hold other guys accountable. And that's what made it special. Like we all held each other accountable and we wanted to chase greatness together. And when you have teammates and buddies that you trust, and it makes work fun,
Oh,
and
yeah.
enjoyed coming to work every day and giving each other heck every day.
So if you had the chance to play with one player throughout time, dead or alive, who do you wish you would have got a chance to play with?
Ooh, a center, I always looked up to the Bradys, the Mannings, and the quarterbacks. As a running back, I'm picking Derrick no matter what. But I would probably say I would probably went with Peyton Manning because he was a one of those guys. He knew everything that was going on. He ran the offense through him, and that's kind of how my mindset was as the offensive lineman. Like I was going to make every check, everything for all the guys, and I was always like the quarterback of the O line. It would have been cool to play with a guy who had that much that everybody trusted and everybody relied on. I'm like, that could have just been a really cool atmosphere and just an experience to have.
Yeah, that's awesome. Have you met you? I'm assuming you've met him in person.
Yeah, he was our Pro Bowl coach my last year. So it was kind of cool to wrap up my career and him be the coach and sit there and play catch with his son and give his son Marshall a hard time at the Pro Bowl. So that was a special moment at the end of my career, that something that was like a little icing on the cake for me.
Yeah. What's another moment or two that are like standing out to you as huge highlights that you're grateful for of your career?
The big thing was getting those 2,000 yards for Derrick, and he had back-to-back rushing titles for us, and making. I never had a losing season when I was starting, so that was one of those things. Like if I was in the game, I felt like I had an impact, and that's what my wife always says. You didn't. Not every year was a winning season. I was like, I didn't start that year, honey. I was a guy who was just having to be a good teammate and help other guys along. And I was like, other than that, I was like, I pretty much we in the NFL, it's hard to win, and that was
Yeah.
like my thing saying, like, hey, I'm a winner, and I make sure to bring other people along and keep that mindset because I always said winning is contagious. If you all it takes, you get a taste of win, and you don't want to go back.
You're giving me goosebumps. You should think about a speaking career when you grow up. Okay. So then which defense in the over the last 30 years would you consider to be the most consistent defense in the NFL that you played against them?
I would say the Steelers. You think about the steel curtain from all those years, and that was one of I think the only team I didn't beat my whole NFL career. So sitting back to it, I'm like, how? I was like, they went through ebbs and flows of quarterbacks and running backs, but they always had a dominant defense going from Troy Polamalu to TJ Watt, the Cam Haywards to they always had a defense that were built around a couple guys who were true leaders. And I'm like, that's what it takes to be a team. Like you have a head coach for the Steelers that has never had a losing season over 18 seasons. That's impressive because the NFL is meant to have ebbs and flows, and you have bad years every 5 to 6 years because of the salary cap and how it's set up. That means that you built something that your low man on the totem pole and your highest paid are working for the same goal, and that's something special that they've done.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, you know, my husband will love that answer. He's a big Steelers fan.
They got a good
Uh,
one.
Speaking of like how it's set up and stuff, what do you think of all these new rules and the kicking and everything else? Is it harder to play in the NFL today? Do these rules affect the game a lot? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm still learning them because I haven't sat in those rule meetings because we would always go through that during camp. I know 2 weeks ago when the Titans were playing the Dolphins, they did the pooch punt at the end of the game. I'm like, the dude's got to catch it. That's a turnover. But I didn't know they changed like a landing zone for onside kick. And like, I think it takes away some of the excitement and some of the coaching, like you can't do a surprise on kick. So I remember every week you were always like, hey, this kicker can do an onside kick at any point. You got to be prepared for it. So it kind of makes the game a little more vanilla. And they were hoping to bring more spot. No, still taking a knee and taking on the 30. I'm like, you got to make it a more harsh punishment if you want these guys to return it. If not, you might as well just put the ball on the 30 because every team is kind of doing the same thing. Just up,
Yeah,
we're not having to put good players out there. We're going to take the risk of not getting anybody hurt, and we're going to start on 30-yard line.
yeah. So another, like, I guess, controversial question. What do you think about switching to college and the athletes getting paid and all this transfer portal stuff? I guess those are two separate questions, but I would love to know your thoughts as a veteran.
I think they need to be held accountable. I don't. That's what I don't have any problem with them getting paid or anything like that. But the whole transferring, like if you're going to a school, they always told us like you pick the school, not the coach, because the coach can be gone in a year. So you pick the university where you want to get your degree from. It means something to you. So that's the reason why you stay and you fight for your team. It's not like, oh, this team might pay me more this year, or I'm not playing. So it gives kids a way out. Like
Hmm.
instead of, oh, if you want to go there and make this money, you should sign a 3-year contract, just like we do. You're getting paid, sign a contract and make sure you stay there so you can be coached, so you can be turned into a man and take some discipline, take some. So it's hard to coach. That's why I talked to all our coaches back at Georgia, and he's like, it's a different way to coach kids now because you're recruiting them all year long because they can leave like 3 or 4 times a year. So you're having to make sure certain guys are getting in the game or getting so many reps where used to you had to earn it. And now they're kind of just having to give it out there. You can't really coach them like you want to. And I'm like, man, college used to be so hard because you knew you were stuck there. You were either going to graduate and you could leave, or you're going to be there for your whole career. So,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. I feel like our economy is right now and our country is getting soft on that aspect. Like, hey, we got to hold these kids to a higher standard. We want these kids to be successful in the next 10 to 15 years. They're going to be the ones who's going to have to lead our country and the focal point in raising kids. Like, you got to hold these kids accountable. And yes, you're giving them a lot of money, but if you hold them accountable, I think it'd be a lot better.
Yeah. Oh, totally. I love that. What would you say you like better now to watch, college or NFL?
Oh, it's NFL. I want to see the cream of the crop. I want to see, for me, I hate sloppy play and errors. And that's what you're going to get with young kids. They only get a certain amount of meeting times from class and all that. So, yes, they're going to make mistakes. They're 18-year-old kids where I like precision. I like people playing at a high level. I want stuff to be done right. That's why I enjoy watching pro football. And I'll watch certain teams because I know that they're coached the right way. They're going to do things the right way. I hate sloppy football. I want good quarterback play, good O-line play, and I want things to be done a certain way.
I like it. Yeah, you have a high standard, and that's shown through your whole career and your life. This is kind of like would you rather question. So that was college NFL. Next one, would you rather lift weights or do the DNS performance workouts we did in the summer?
Lift weights. You never know, like just picking your foot up and walking and doing all this balance and core work would actually, I would sweat more doing that than in there benching and squatting in the house.
I know, and shake.
No doubt.
You're like, I didn't know you could make me do this, but it worked.
It
Uh,
does.
Lake or beach?
Oh man, that's hard.
Oh,
At this stage of life, I would say beach because our kids can entertain themselves on the beach. But I enjoy the lake. I enjoy being in the boat, fishing. But with young kids, the beach is easier and they enjoy it more. That's what's more important right now. That's why I enjoy going to the beach is with the family.
mm-hmm. Burger or steak?
Steak all day.
What kind?
I'm gonna go from I'm gonna go ribeye from James's Country Store in my hometown. It's literally they cut the cows up in the back, they marinate it for you, and you get it at a gas station, and it's fine.
And how are you serving it or eating it?
Oh, medium rare. Just depends on how good I'm a chef. If I cook it a little too much, it's medium. But if not, it's medium rare.
Are you cooking on the green egg or regular
I
grill
usually,
or
I usually
Traeger?
sear it. I'll sear it, then I'll finish it on the Traeger to try to get the right finish.
I love it. Okay. Bourbon or wine with that?
Bourbon.
Okay. Favorite kind?
Oh, I like Blanton's. I'm on a Blanton's kick right now. Before that, I always had Buffalo Trace before that.
Okay. Okay. Once again, you and my husband getting along. And then, like, what is your guys' you and your beautiful wife favorite Nashville restaurants? Just to get,
Oh, Nashville restaurants. I feel like with kids now, we're always picking kid restaurants and what's kids friendly. But when we get a date night, we love Jeff Ruby's. That's her by far her favorite. For me, I love going to South Hall Farm just to get away from the city and you get to sit around the lake. You can sit out by a campfire and have a good meal. So me, it's more about the experience than the food. She wants the great steak and some music.
yeah, the Nashville-ish experience.
No
And speaking
doubt.
of her, one thing I don't think that's talked enough about in the professional athletic world is the support system of, yes, you had Brittany and I treatment, all that stuff, but like at home. And how crucial was it, Alex and her in your career?
She was our rock. I wouldn't have played as long as I did if it wasn't for her or be this successful because I didn't have to worry about anything at home. Like I knew she was taking care of the kids, everything from meals to groceries to anybody coming into town to watch a game. She handled everything. And during the season, her whole thing was, hey, how do I make it simple for you so you can focus and be your best self at home and at work? And a lot of people don't have that. When you have distractions at home through family, through wives and kids, it shows on the field. And I think that was one of the big reasons why I was so steady, so um, having the career I did because I had that support system, and she don't get enough credit for it.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing how that can like make or break. Like you said, you see it on the field.
100%.
What do you guys find joy in retirement now then?
I think it's just like the walks when the kids are at school. Like we'll be able to take our youngest, we'll go to Radnor, we'll just take some time and take them to breakfast. Hey, let's go to the playgrounds. It's just the slow mornings and the days at the ball field. That's what we were looking forward to for a long time. It's like, hey, when we're gonna get our kids are gonna be in sport, we're gonna be sports family and getting to really mentor other kids. And now I'm coaching a million little league teams and coaching high school. So we thought it was gonna be a slow paced life when I retired, but I feel like my days are a lot more hectic than it was.
That's what I was gonna say before we hit record. You were like, I'm busier now than when I was playing.
No doubt.
Love it. And what inspires you in retirement? Because you're so young, you basically get to have a whole nother life. Like, what inspires you of what you're gonna do next?
So my thing is, if I'm going to do it, I want to love it. I'm not just going to do something for the money or anything like that. I've banged my head against people to support my family for a living. Now it's about, hey, it's helping other people and chasing things that I'm passionate about. If it's from speaking to kids about what it means to be a better man and a Christian, or if it's coaching kids or motivating them, or if it's just being a dad and being there at every practice, coaching all their things to show them like, hey, I'm there for them, and I want to be that support system for my kids and wife. So I get to make that choice because I did sacrifice for those years, and now it's more about, hey, what am I passionate about? What do I love? And if I'm going to do it, I'm going to be all in.
I love that. So you have the mic here right now. What do you want to make sure that the listeners know either about you or your message or what you wish you would have known or anything? Give it to us.
You never know the platform that you have and the people that you can affect by just being an athlete. Like I was so focused on, like I didn't really do social media and all that because I didn't want distractions. My whole thing was I'm going to protect my family and I'm going to provide. And that was my whole mindset when I was playing. And sitting back from it, like, yes, I could have had a big social media following and did all that. But for me, I wanted a private lifestyle. I wanted people to actually know me and not just what I did every day in my lifestyle. If you got to know me, you know I am who I was as a man and a man of God and a family man. And that's the guy you saw every single day. Like you didn't see, oh, I'm out doing this on social media or doing that every day. I wanted people to actually have to sit down and talk to me to know who I was.
Yeah, and you're one of the most incredible men I've ever met. And I'm so grateful I've been able to be a part of you and your family's lives and support you during your career because you do make a difference and it's wonderful to watch.
Well, I
Thank
appreciate it.
you for taking time out of your really busy schedule to sit down with us and share a little bit about your life and the insights, the insider scoop. We so appreciate it.
Absolutely. Anytime. If you need somebody, this is the person to call right here. She's the
Okay,
best.
well then you're going to come back. We're going to do another one at some point.
Let's do it.